It's astrologer and psychic Victoria Bearden, and I'm here to tell you about Spring Equinox 2017. Yep, it's spring, almost. March 20th of 2017 will be Spring Equinox and the sun will go into Aries. And when we go into a new seasonal cycle, if you look at the chart, the astrology chart for that period, you know, right when the sun goes into Aries on the 20th, it's almost like that is the chart for the whole spring cycle. So we're going to look at that chart and say, well, what does this tell us about what's going on maybe personally? What's the theme this spring? What's going on globally, politically? Well, it's all kind of there in a way, which is really interesting. So what do we have going on? Well, the sun's going into Aries, and the sun will be fairly close to Venus, which is in Aries right now, and retrograde. So lots of emotional healing. That's going to be a theme because Venus retrograde isn't exactly very easy. I have another video I just made about Venus retrograde. And our, equinox theme then will be maybe healing old wounds, looking at the walls that divide us emotionally and trying to make some sense out of some of those divisions that are going on, and definitely the theme of some healing coming up with our spring equinox chart to me. We look at the moon, which is in Sagittarius, fire sign, on the equinox, and we look at the moon and it's really exactly conjunct the planet Saturn. Saturn is all about duties, burdens, responsibilities, and getting real. And the moon really doesn't want to have anything to do with that, particularly when she's in Sagittarius, because that's all about, feelings and inspiration and our inner emotional equilibrium. And Saturn, hello, but when we look at it as, well, what does the symbol really tell us about what's going on during this cycle of spring? Well, we all need to grow up a little bit because the moon conjunct Saturn is really about taking responsibility. And when you look at the moon as also symbolizing the public at large, having to deal with the tough stuff, the grown-up stuff. And it's interesting because if you're, a citizen of the US like I am, this moon on the equinox is exactly lined up with Donald Trump's moon and sun. The moon-Saturn conjunction in Sagittarius will line up with President Trump's moon and oppose his sun. So Donald, this one has your name on it. Pay attention. There's going to be some heavy-duty lessons associated with this, and you need to be listening to what the moon, the public at large, is saying about what they want you to be responsible for. So that's going to be something else to watch. It's already happening, I think. And then we have this cardinal T-square going on. Well, what the heck is that? Well, it's all pretty tight on the equinox, and that has to do with Jupiter in Libra opposing Uranus in Aries, and both of them squaring Pluto in Capricorn. Well, what is this all about? It's about, hey, you say you want to save the world, there's going to be a revolution. Well, how the heck are you going to do it? All kinds of issues about justice or the lack thereof, and human rights and legal issues, and issues about power and control, and all these heavy-duty undercurrents that are going on politically. We're not done with any of this anytime soon, and the spring equinox is definitely highlighting the cardinal T-square. So it's going to be hot and heavy, folks. Get ready to rumble. And yet, this is all being brought up because problems need to be solved. So when we get insight about these things, which surely we are getting a lot of insight, things can be solved. And in our own lives too. Where do I find the balance? How do I put my priorities and principles into the place that they need to be in my own life? How do I shift my consciousness to positive and proactive out of frustrated and fearful or angry? And we're all working on that right now so we can start solving some problems in ourselves and in the world. So that's what I have to say about spring equinox. It's going to come in with a roar, and yet I think many doorways will open as the truth begins to surface more and more in our own realities and in what we see around us. So, happy spring.